Welcome to V-Band Brilliant Bold Banished, where literature breathes through candlelight and every book reveals its darker soul. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret, is the book we are trying to summarize today. The rain was endless that night, not a storm, but a slow and deliberate sorrow that soaked through the bones of the world. Margaret sat by her window watching the droplets thread down the glass like tears that refused to dry. The air was heavy with silence, and in it, her voice trembled. Are you there, God? It's me. Margaret. No one answered. The ceiling above seemed to listen with indifference. The shadows in her room deepened, as though they were gathering closer to hear her confessions. She had prayed like this for months, to the void, to the unseen, to a name that might not even exist. Her words were small offerings to something greater, something mercilessly silent. She wondered if God was deaf, or if he was simply tired of being called upon by children who didn't yet know what they wanted. Margaret's heart was full of wanting. She wanted to be older, wiser, chosen. She wanted the certainty her friends wore like perfume, that quiet, cruel confidence of belonging. But she remained untransformed, her body still a map of promises unfulfilled. At school, the hallway smelled of pencils and envy. Nancy, with her perfect curls and poisonous smile, whispered secrets that spread like ivy. They spoke of growing up as though it were a ceremony, a sacred initiation into womanhood. They spoke of bras and blood and kisses stolen behind gym doors. Margaret listened, pretending to understand, but beneath her calm mask was a wilderness of fear. Every night she begged God for a sign, for proof that she too was chosen for change. She whispered prayers in the dark until her throat ached. But the only answer was the ticking clock and the sigh of wind outside her window. Her parents were no sanctuary either. Her father, a man of reason, looked at faith as if it were a superstition for the weak. Her mother, bright but brittle, had abandoned her own church years ago, leaving behind stained glass memories and unfinished hymns. And so Margaret wandered between them like a ghost, half of one world, half of another, belonging nowhere. Her grandmother was different. Sylvia believed in God with a devotion that burned like incense, heavy, choking, sweet. You'll find your way, Margaret, she said, her voice trembling with both age and conviction. God hears you. He always does. But Margaret wasn't sure. What if God listened only to the loudest voices? What if he turned his face from the quiet ones like her, the uncertain, the trembling, the half-believers? The days grew longer. The air itself felt watchful. Margaret's prayers began to curdle into questions. Why do I feel alone, even when I'm surrounded? Why do the girls laugh at what I cannot become? Why does the world demand transformation and call it growing up? Sometimes she imagined God as a figure in the corner, silent, faceless, watching her with neither love nor anger, only an infinite patience that frightened her. One evening, she followed her grandmother to the synagogue. The walls shimmered with candlelight, golden and trembling. The prayers rose like smoke, twisting toward the ceiling, ancient words heavy with generations of longing. Margaret felt the sound pass through her like wind through empty branches. She wanted to believe, truly she did, but belief is not a switch one can turn on. It's a fever, and hers would not come. The next week, she crept into a church. The air was colder there, sharp with stone and silence. The crucifix loomed above her, a pale figure nailed to suffering, and she thought, if this is what devotion looks like, maybe I don't want it. Still, she prayed. She prayed for signs, for change, for blood, for the thing that would make her real in her friends' eyes, in her own eyes, in God's. She prayed not for heaven, but for proof she was alive. And then one night, something shifted. She woke to pain, dull, aching, holy in its mystery. She saw the red stain on the sheets and felt the world spin around her. Her breath caught. Thank you, she whispered, half in awe, half in disbelief. Thank you, God. But as she stared at the mark, gratitude tangled with fear. Was this blessing or curse? Her heart pounded. She felt older, yet smaller. She wanted to tell someone, yet wanted no one to know. Her prayer that night was different, not a question, but a trembling confession. I got it, God. I'm one of them now. Are you proud? Silence answered again, as always. But this time she thought she heard something beneath it. Not a voice, but a presence, a knowing. Days passed. Her friends spoke now with authority, like queens of a new kingdom. They judged, they whispered, they competed in quiet cruelty. Nancy, always first in everything, lied about her experiences, painting herself in a glow that felt false. Margaret saw through it, the desperation, the loneliness disguised as laughter. And she realized how fragile they all were, even the loudest ones. They too were searching for something unseen, something to tell them who they were supposed to be. Her parents began to drift apart under invisible weights. Her mother's family, devout and distant, disowned her for marrying outside her faith. Her father's silence grew heavier each night. Margaret felt like the rope in a tug-of-war between heaven and earth. One evening, she found her mother crying in the kitchen, the kind of tears that come from memories that will not die. People think faith makes you whole, her mother whispered, staring at her own reflection in the dark window. But sometimes it only breaks you. Those words stayed with Margaret. She began to see that adults were not gods, only wounded children who'd learned to hide their prayers behind closed doors. The seasons turned. Winter crept in like a ghost. Margaret's faith flickered, not gone, but altered. It became quieter, darker, more human. She no longer begged for answers. She began to live inside the questions. She walked through the snow one night, the sky thick with falling silence. Every flake that touched her skin felt like a whisper from something ancient. She looked up and spoke again, softly. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. I don't know if you ever were, but I need you to know that I'm still here. And for the first time, she didn't wait for an answer. The silence no longer frightened her. It felt full, alive, as though the whole world breathed with her. When spring returned, she felt its pulse under her skin. Change no longer terrified her. It was simply life unfolding. The pain, the joy, the uncertainty. It was all part of being alive. She understood now that God was not a voice in the clouds, but something quieter. The heartbeat beneath her ribs, the ache in her chest when she missed someone, the beauty that came even from sorrow. So she prayed one last time, not out of desperation, but devotion to her own becoming. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. I think I understand now. You were never the voice. You were the silence. You were the space that let me speak outside. Thunder rolled like distant laughter. She smiled, small and certain. The girl who once begged for proof no longer needed any. And as the night closed in, the air grew warm again. Not from divinity, but from something even holier, acceptance. She whispered once more, barely audible, it's me, Margaret. I'm here, and that's enough. And somewhere in the hollow quiet of the universe, something listened, not with ears, but with eternity. And if this story found a quiet corner in your heart, if the shadows of these words keep lingering in your heart even after this video's over, then stay. This is not the end. Here we tell the stories that the world forgets. The forbidden, the beautiful, the banned, brilliant, bold, banished, and the aching pulse of the human soul. Like, share, subscribe, and press the bell icon if you dare, to walk deeper into the labyrinth, where every book breathes and every whisper of ink becomes a haunting. Let us meet again in the next story, beneath the same trembling light. Banned, brilliant, bold, banished.